Along a nondescript two-lane road in rural northern Tennessee lies a small, overgrown homestead with a haunting past. The Old Bell Farm in Adams, Tennessee, was the location of one of the most mysterious legends in history, the Bell Witch. What distinguishes this legend from many other legends is that the Bells were real people who experienced crazy, documented paranormal activity from 1817 through 1821 and beyond. There have been many theories proposed to explain the occurrences, but those have all since been debunked. There are also stories that have been shown to be only speculation or misunderstanding of the events in question. Most of what is known, however, has been assembled and organized by a longtime researcher of the Bell Witch haunting, Pat Fitzhugh. But in order to know what happened, we have to go back in time to where it all began in North Carolina. John Bell Sr. was born in Edgecombe County, North Carolina. As a young man, he was a barrel maker apprentice. However, he decided to change course and try his hand at farming. He married his sweetheart, Lucy Williams, in 1782, and they proceeded to have 4 boys together: Jesse, John Jr., Drury, and Benjamin. John Bell's farming enterprise took off, and the family prospered until drought conditions in 1801 and 1804 ruined their crops and put the family into financial dire straits. By this time, many of the Bells' friends and neighbors had abandoned their properties and moved out west of North Carolina. In that winter of 1804, the Bell family followed suit. After struggling through severe weather and rugged terrain, John Bell and family ultimately came to an area known as the Barren Plains, and specifically settled down in an area known then as Red River. Red River later became known as Adams, Tennessee. The move from North Carolina worked and seemed to return the Bells back to prosperity. In fact, John Bell was able to buy more and more land fairly quickly and ultimately amassed a property spanning 328 acres. He cleared a large portion of the land for crops and, as with many wealthy landowners of the time, John Bell owned slaves. In time, John even became an elder at the Red River Baptist Church. But the good fortune was not to last. In 1817, John Sr. was out in a field inspecting his corn crop when he spotted a bizarre-looking creature. It supposedly had the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit. Not being able to identify the critter, John shot at it with his shotgun. The beast vanished. John didn't think much of it and went on about his day. That evening back at home, the Bell family, now consisting of John Sr., his wife Lucy, and 7 children, began hearing sounds of something beating against the exterior of their house. Every night afterwards, the beating got louder and harder. Often, John Sr. and his sons would run outside with guns loaded, trying to see the creature causing the racket, but they never saw anything. Activity increased until the smallest Bell children became scared to death by what sounded like rats gnawing on their bedposts every night. The activity increased even more. The children were terrified of this unseen force that would yank their bed covers down and pull off their pillows, throwing them on the floor. The paranormal experiences were just beginning, though. As time went on, the family began hearing a soft voice, like that of an old lady, singing hymns. The physical attacks became more aggressive and eventually focused on the youngest child, Betsy. The spirit often pulled her hair and slapped her face, even leaving red handprints and welts all over her body. Throughout the entire ordeal, John Sr. tried to keep these bizarre events within his family. However, the activity got so bad that he finally broke down and told his neighbor about it. James Johnston, the neighbor, had known the Bells for years and was quite skeptical of these crazy ramblings, that is, until he and his wife spent the night at the Bell house. The openly skeptical Johnstons decided to pay the Bells a visit and spend the night. Things were strangely quiet and uneventful until everyone went to bed. At some point during the night, the spirit yanked off the covers from the bed the Johnsons were sleeping in, and James had a scare when the spirit slapped the fire out of him. James jumped out of bed yelling, "In the name of the Lord, who are you and what do you want?" The spirit went silent, and there were no other instances that night. In the morning, James told John Sr. what had happened and swore that the spirit had to be a demon. The spirit, now being called Kate, was not to be silenced. Kate developed and strengthened her voice, gaining local notoriety for quoting scripture, singing hymns, and carrying on intelligent conversations. Once, it was reported that she quoted verbatim 2 sermons that were preached on the same day, at the same time, yet 13 miles apart. The story of the haunting was beginning to spread across Tennessee. News spread all the way to Nashville, where, in 1819, the future 7th U.S. President, Major General Andrew Jackson, got wind of it. Jackson had heard about the Bell haunting years prior when he was commanding his troops in the Battle of New Orleans. 3 of the Bell children, then grown, had served in his company: Jesse, John Jr., and Drury. Hearing about the tale again in Nashville, Jackson thought he'd go and check it out for himself. His caravan consisted of several mounted soldiers and a horse-drawn wagon that held provisions. As the group approached the Bell house, the wagon suddenly stopped dead in a muddy creek. No matter how hard the men tried to coax the horses to pull the wagon from the mud, they were stuck. After much cussing and fussing, a very flustered Jackson exclaimed that it must be the work of the Bell Witch. A disembodied female voice from out of nowhere told the company that they may now pass, and she would visit them later that night. Suddenly, the wagon rolled out of the creek and proceeded on towards the house with ease. Jackson had his men set up their camp on the front lawn of the manor. As the evening wore on, the troops were inside the Bell home talking when one soldier boldly claimed that he was a witch tamer and brazenly boasted that the spirit stayed away because it was afraid of him and his pistol that contained a silver bullet that could kill it. As if on cue, the man instantly began contorting wildly and writhing in pain. He yelled that it felt like he was being stabbed with pins and needles. Finally, the unseen force kicked the man so hard on his bottom that he went sailing out the front door. A now very angry female voice boomed that she would expose yet another fraudster in Jackson's entourage the following night. The men were terrified and begged Jackson to leave the Bell farm, but Jackson persisted, wanting to learn the identity of the other fraud in his company. Nobody knows exactly what happened from that point on that night, but the entire entourage was spotted in the early morning hours in Springfield, Tennessee, on its way back to Nashville. By this time, the witch appeared to prey upon the weakest members of the Bell family, now setting her sights on tormenting John Sr. John Sr. was getting quite old and had developed twitching in his face. He had difficulty swallowing and was prone to seizures. The witch often threatened to kill him. By the fall of 1820, John Sr.'s health had deteriorated to the point of him becoming completely homebound. The spirit attacked him mercilessly, removing his shoes whenever he tried to walk, forcefully slapping him every time he recovered from one of his many seizures even. The spirit had developed a very shrill voice that echoed around the entire farm, often cursing and chastising old Jack Bell, the nickname she gave to John Sr. On December 19, 1820, John Sr. slipped into a coma and died the following day. Not too long after John Sr.'s passing, the family found a mysterious vial of black liquid. John Jr. fed a few drops of it to the cat. The cat jumped up wildly and sadly died before hitting the ground. The spirit derisively sang that she gave old Jack some of that the night before and it fixed him. A horrified John Jr. threw the vial into the fireplace where it exploded into a bright blue flame that shot up the chimney. The funeral for John Bell Sr. was the largest in Robertson County's history. People came from hundreds of miles around to pay their respects. He was laid to rest in the Bell family cemetery, and as mourners began leaving the gravesite, the entity sang a song about a bottle of brandy. This garish singing continued until the very last mourner left the cemetery. After John Sr. died, the activity seemed to die down, that is, until Betsy got engaged to her neighbor, Joshua Gardner. For some unknown reason, the entity was not happy with the arrangement and often angrily ordered Betsy not to marry him. Betsy and Joshua could not walk or go anywhere without the entity hounding them. On Easter Monday, 1821, Betsy, fed up with the constant harassment, called off her engagement. Soon thereafter, in April 1821, the entity visited Lucy Bell, John Sr.'s widow. The entity told her that she was going away for a while but would return in 7 years. As promised, the farm was quiet until 1828 when the entity did indeed return. This time, however, the entity spoke to John Jr. and apparently discussed the origin of life, civilizations, Christianity, and a need for another spiritual awakening. She also made several predictions, but many were later proven to be wrong. She stayed for 3 more weeks talking to John Jr. She said then that she would disappear, yet return in 107 years to speak to a descendant. That would push us now to the year 1935. In 1934, John Sr.'s great-grandson was the next descendant of that time, Dr. Charles Bailey Bell, a neurologist in Nashville. Dr. Bell published a book telling the story to warn the world of the Bell Witch's supposed return. His book was based on the Bell family's passed-down stories of the witch and drew from his father's own handwritten notes during her conversations with John Bell Jr. Dr. Bell died in 1945 and never had the opportunity to write a sequel to his 1934 book. No one knows if the witch ever visited him, or if she had ever really left the farm at all, for that matter. The Bell Farm still stands today in Adams, Tennessee. Nobody really knows what happened there, but something certainly did. Visitors throughout the decades have reported hearing disembodied moans and singing in the vicinity. There are also many instances of people taking photographs while visiting, only to see people in the developed photos who were not present when the photos were taken. Rumor also has it that the entire area around Adams is haunted by the witch, and she has been blamed for a number of things. Was the Bell Witch behind all the activity? Judge for yourself. But one thing is for certain. The Bell Witch haunting has gone down in infamy as an iconic paranormal event in American history. My name is Ashley, and thank you so much for watching. We're a group of curious and passionate humans, creating documentary-style content for those who share our curiosity, ask questions, and seek to dig deeper in a world where almost everything isn't quite what it seems. We are Mystery Syndicate. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, leave a comment, and give this video a like. And to be notified when we post new videos, hit that notification bell. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. For exclusive merchandise and our blog, visit our website at www.mysterysyndicate.com. And for those that wish to support our channel, please visit Mystery Syndicate on Patreon. We have a variety of new patron tiers with tons of great benefits. If you want to see your name on a future video, be sure to check it out. From all of us at Mystery Syndicate, thank you again. We sincerely appreciate your support.